Hello there, welcome back to my RPG Maker MV tutorials. My name is Syndicate and today we're looking at the basics and the essentials of the software. Today specifically we're going to be looking at switches, variables and conditional branches. So as always a demo is provided and everything is unencrypted, so let's get into it and see what we can learn today. So it starts off with a cutscene. I must have about 5 minutes to get out of this forest before I lose my mind. Huh? Looks like something is coming this way. Better hurry. So after this, it will start a timer and take you to the switch forest. Now the first switch activates here. As soon as you walk into that top tile there, event will happen and this actor will appear. You're either very brave or very stupid to be adventuring around these parts. If my master finds you, quick! I've lowered the force field. Get out of here! And then the event disappears and teleports. So that's done all with switches and self-switches. Now this next part, again, an event activates. You mustn't go back now, quick, go forward. And you'll see, if I go forward, I end up in a different part of the map. Repeat, again, and again, and then after a while, another fairy appears. Follow your heart and be free, do not become one of us. A little bit more, we can keep running around. And then another one appears. Focus your mind, brave one. And you can see we can now proceed. Now we end up on a variable parallax. So again, this uses variables now this time. We go up to this crystal. It speaks. Need 3 souls. I currently have 0 souls. Now a battle activates. We fight some ogres. Or orcs even. No, my soul. So it looks like we just killed that orc. It speaks, need 3 souls. I currently have 1 souls. And we can run around this map and fight some more orcs. Excellent. This will be the last one. And the crystal activates. So that's all for the switches and variables. You'll learn quite a lot from unencrypting and viewing the demo on that part. I will quickly go through it with you in this video as well. But let's move on to the conditional branch part of the tutorial. Oi, snap out of it. We have food to prepare. Go get the ingredients from outside. We're still missing ingredients, so this uses a conditional branch to tell whether or not the actor has an ingredient in the party. As you can see, we currently have nothing. If we go outside, they've created this little farming type thing out here. And we go up to these, what I think, cabbages, and try and pull them out. It says this ingredient looks a bit dry. I think a drink would help it grow. Now that uses a conditional branch to determine whether the actor has a watering can in the party. These carrots are fine, however. Let's pick some carrots. Let's go back. Now, apparently, we're still missing ingredients, so let's go back outside. You can see in our item, we do have a carrot, but there is something over here. Let's pick one of these as well. You can see we now have some wheat. Let's go back into the hut and talk again. Carrot and wheat, great, huh? The cabbage needs water to go, try this. It looks like we've now got a watering can. So if we go up to the cabbage this time, we can now water it and pick it. So now we have the cabbage. Talk to the lady again. Fantastic, now I can make some food. I just need to. Yum. Smells great. And that's it. So, I hope you enjoyed that demo. Let's quickly run through a few of the basics together. First things first is the cutscene. Now, I tend to start my events in the top left corner, just out of habit. I've named most of these events for you as well, so you should know what everything does. So this one's cutscene min event. It starts off with a fade out screen. It shows some text, as we've seen in the demo. Then it will start the timer. I've set 5 minutes for the timer, but you can make this anything you like. And then I've added the party member syndicate and transferred you to the forest. I've then tinted the screen and faded in the screen. So that's just a transition from the cutscene to the first map. Now the reason I had to add Actor Syndicate is because I tend to start the game in system and I delete the starting party out of habit. I always do that just because I can then decide who I want to start with and so on and so forth and what they look like. I also tend to use the side view battle system, and it's always good practice to obviously change your title and battle music and title screens and so on. So onto the switches now. You end up in Switch Forest. Now from here, you'll see there's lots of different events here that I've got. These are transfers to the next map. This is an event that appears after a certain switch is called, and these events here tend to be the main events I code on the map. So we've got here, as soon as you first transport into this map, it will trigger an auto run, and it's going to tell the player a little tip. Hold Shift to dash. It then uses a self switch to delete this so it doesn't loop itself. So once self switch A is on, which it is here, it will do nothing. So as you can see, it will do this and then it will call self switch A, and then that event essentially erases itself. Now, this one here is the timer. So as you can see, in the cutscene we set the timer to 5. This parallel process, which means it'll always be checking for this conditional branch, basically means that if the timer reaches 0, then it's going to display the text "Die Mortal" and it's going to be game over. So you can see that on all of my maps. So that parallel process is always checking the timer. Okay, back in here. Now, this is where switches become useful. Now think of a switch literally as an on or an off. Typically, like a light switch, it can either be on and it'll show you light, off, and it'll obviously turn itself off. So that is exactly what a switch is. So this actor here, you can see, it only appears when switch number 1 appears on, and as you can see from walking up here, switch number 1 turns on. So the player will dash up to this square here. It will then player touch this square, and it will turn the player around and say I can't proceed yet, and it will then turn that switch on, which will make this person appear. So then the player needs to come down, speak to this actor, and a few more things happen. Now the first thing that happens is a new switch turns on. Allow entry is on, and what that does is it then changes this square to this one, switch allow entry on, and it now allows the player to continue with the game. So switch allow entry turns on, and then this NPC here will say you're either very brave if my master finds you, and then it'll show an animation, and then it'll turn switch appear off. Now that's this switch, so it's basically erasing itself again. That's an alternative to using a self switch. You can turn its own switch off. So now that allow entry is on, we can then proceed, as allow entry will let us transfer to the next map. Similar sort of thing in variable junction. So a player walks up to this square and it'll activate player touch, which will then control the switch block entry on, which makes this NPC spawn. Now, this map uses the variables. So as you can see, every time we go here, it will add a variable to the transfer. So what this square is doing is using a conditional branch here. It's basically saying if the variable can pass is equal to 5, then it will allow you to transfer to the next map. Otherwise, transfer the player over here and add 1 to the variable tally. So you need to go through these squares 5 times before you can actually proceed with the game. Now, after 3, once can pass hits 3, then this one appears, and subsequently after 5, this one appears. So once in that demo, you've seen me go up, left, right, and then one appeared, and then left, and then up, and then another one appeared, and then afterwards I could then proceed with the game. So that's how the variables are used. It is literally, a variable is a number, and that number can be counted, subtract, multiplied. You can use it for many different things. another example is in this next map, in the variable Parallax. So in this one here, you can see there is random encounters turned on, and it's just a bunch of orcs. Now as we scroll the map, you start a battle with an orc. And we go into the database, into the troops, and then go to the orc itself. You will see that every time we kill the orc, the variable orc slayer goes up by 1. And what that basically means is this crystal here needs at least 3 orc slayer variables to proceed with the game. So we had to kill 3 orcs before this crystal activated and let us proceed with the game. So that's another example of variables counting and being used to proceed with the game. Good for the likes of fetch quests, monster killing quests, and so on and so forth. Now we go on to the more advanced conditional branches tutorial. So with this lady is basically looking to see if we have certain ingredients in our inventory. So the first thing she searches for is a carrot. If we don't have it, she will say we're missing ingredients. Then she'll search for the wheat. If we don't have one or the other ingredients, she'll basically say we're still missing ingredients. If we have both carrot and wheat, she'll say carrot and wheat. Great. And then she will give you the water can, and control self switch B will turn on. As you can see, after this, she controlled self switch A is on, self switch A is on. Then after that, self switch B is on, self switch B is on. It basically gives the actor, it progresses with the actor's choices and text. So it's not, the actor's not always saying the same thing over and over again. And it saves using a normal switch. Self switch is more defined to the NPC itself. So in this part here, if you've got the cabbage as well, then that's when this NPC will do this big event here in which it does an animation and so on and so forth. It'll control switch food plates is on, which will change these plates to food plates. As you can see, again, switch food plates is on, so it'll change to this one. What I've also done here is once she does this animation here, she will actually control self switch C is on, which will make this self switch C disappear. So she vanishes from that location. And then control switches change location equals on. And what that means is that this person change location is on. And it means when you leave the house and come back into the house, she's not going to be standing there anymore. She's going to be standing over here. I hope that makes sense. Again, in the conditional garden as well, you've got the kind of farming thing I've set up here. So you've got the carrots, show choices. So you can pick the ingredient or leave it alone. If you pick the ingredient, you will get a carrot, and control self switch A goes on, which makes the carrot disappear. It's as simple as that. That's using these self switches. This one uses a conditional branch to determine whether you've got the water can. If you do, then you can continue. If not, it'll say, looks a little bit dry. So guys, please do download the demo. I will provide it in the description below. Play about with it. Transfer everything into your own project. Do whatever you want with it, as long as you're happy and as long as you learn something. I really hope you do. If you like this video, please do give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel to help it grow. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you watching my videos. And until next time, guys, all the best. If you have any requests, please do leave a comment. Take care. Have a good weekend now. Cheers. Bye.